Good afternoon and welcome to week 4. One of the most important pieces of information that I want you all to walk away from this semester is this concept that writing is revision. I will repeat myself. Writing is revision. Once I learned that writing was revision, or writing is nothing but a process of revision, my writing improved exponentially. Once I learned that writing did not happen in a vacuum, or that writing did not happen all in one sitting, that it was actually a process of brainstorming, of thinking, of actually discussing your ideas, and then writing and drafting some more, and then revising and editing. Then I realized how much work actually went into the writing process. This week, you all be reading from your textbook, and you'll be reading sections on the revision process and on just writing the argument in general. So this week I want you to think about some of the things that you do as far as your revision process is concerned when it comes to proofreading your papers. For example, you can revise your paper just for spelling, or you can revise your paper just for content. You can break up your paper in paragraphs and just look at the first 3 paragraphs and look at organization and coherence of those first 3 paragraphs. Put your paper to the side and then look at 2 more paragraphs just for organization and content. The idea that I want you guys to think to yourself when you think about the process of revision is that it's a very detailed, intricate process. And I want you to get out of the habit of thinking to yourself that revision happens just by reading over your paper one time and thinking that you have revised your paper. It's a very detailed process that can benefit you and your writing. So, in your book this week, you'll be reading about different strategies on revising. You'll also be reading about different, just the idea of what the researched argument is and what argumentation is. So in your book, they're going to be talking about how to develop a thesis statement, how to use the information that you guys have collected in your annotated bibliography to support your thesis statement in your researched argument. They'll also talk about different ways on how to use rhetorical strategies to help establish your credibility as a writer. So these are some of the things that you all will explore this week in the textbook. I've also included some sample researched arguments in the email from past student work. So you want to take a look at those, and hopefully that'll give you a better understanding of where to go with your research argument. I've also included what's called a transition worksheet in this week's email. Now, basically, that transition worksheet has a little funny story. I received that worksheet when I was in the 9th grade, and basically what that does, it's a list of signal verbs and attributive tags. And basically, what I mean by that is this idea of when you are writing when you are writing your paper, you have to distinguish between your voice and your author's voice, or the writer that you are critiquing. So, for example, you may say that X author states or X author argues, and then you provide a passage. That term, X author argues or X author states, is known as an attributive tag because you are letting your reader know that these are these authors' ideas. So, for those of you who have trouble trying to figure out how to insert quotes in your papers, this transition worksheet is a good way to help you do that. Also, what this does is that it gives you some ideas on how to move from one paragraph to the next to create a consistent flow throughout your paper. This transition worksheet also includes a list of conjunctive adverbs and conjunctions, subordinating conjunctions, correlative conjunctions, to help give you an understanding of, help you, to help prov- to help give you some strategies to help provide a greater sense of coherence and unity in your papers. And finally, on this transition sheet, you will see a list of things that you can put in your paper other than the term say. Now, a few of you in your papers in the past, I'll see that a couple of you say such and such author says. Well, you don't unless you've actually talking to that article that unless you actually talking to that author, I should say, that author never actually said something to you. So on the back of this transition worksheet, you'll see some things that you can replace in your attributive tags other than saying say. So for example, rather than saying X author says, you would say X author states. or X author believes, or X author argues. So those are some of the main things that you guys are going to be reading this week. I want you to continue to develop your research. Now, when you think about this annotated bibliography and how this is going to attribute to your researched argument, you are going to be using a lot of those sources from your annotated bibliography and you're going to be synthesizing a lot of that information. Feel free, and a lot of students have to do this, is as you are honing in on your thesis statement, you might have to go back and find some more sources. You might take some of those sources in your annotated bibliography and put some of those sources to the side. Remember, this is an ongoing process. So this is something that as your thesis statement develops a little bit more, you might put some sources to the side and you might add some more sources. So don't think to yourself that you're going to be locked in to those sources from your annotated bibliography. However, your annotated bibliography will aid you in developing your argument and developing how you synthesize the information to support your main point. Now, as a reminder, your research argument will be due on August 10th. So between now and August 10th, feel free to send me a rough draft of your research argument so that I can give you feedback. Keep in mind, I am teaching 2 classes this semester and I am correcting papers all at the same time. So you want to keep in mind that if you do send me your research argument to get some feedback, that I probably won't get back with you, or give me at least a minimum of 24 hours to get back to you to give you some constructive feedback for your paper. So, you don't want to send me your paper the night before the night before the deadline and think that I'm going to give you, constructive feedback. So try to give me a week or at least, 4 days to give you some constructive feedback. And again, also use the Writing Cafe. Use the Writ Center it's called the Writing Cafe and the Writ Center at Delta College to get feedback on your papers as well. Don't be afraid to send me whatever you have, okay? So if you only have 2 pages, or if you only have, 1/3 of your essay written, I can be of help to you, of assistance to help get you going on the right track. So don't put yourself under this pressure and wait till the last minute to write everything and then send a rough draft to me 2 days before the paper is due, and then get upset because I wasn't able to give you constructive feedback. It's better to send me what you have now, and then get some information, and then help and then that helps you develop your paper from that point. So those are the major things that I wanted to discuss. We're gonna start developing your research paper. Feel free to use ciphers to brainstorm on your thesis statement and to get feedback from other classmates on ciphers, and for me on your thesis statement. Well, that's going to be part of our post for this week. Remember, continue to revise your papers as you start to draft your papers. Writing is revision. If you have any questions, please let me know, and I will see you guys in cyberspace.